Joining us now to discuss investing in Africa is Robert Hersov. He's the chairman and founder of Invest Africa. Thank you so much, Rob, for making the time to join us today. Now, earlier we were speaking to the CEO of 1001 Voices, and I understand that this is a gentleman you actually are aware of. And a very similar topic, again, we're looking at investment opportunities in sub-Saharan Africa. But what does Invest Africa really look for? You know, let's maybe start off with the structure of the network. How are you structured, and what is it that you're looking for in Africa?
Well, I founded Invest Africa in London about 8 months ago. And it was simply as a result of, I kept getting calls from people saying, you know, we're going to Luanda, who should we meet? I'm looking at this deal in Kenya, could you give us some help? And my wife just said to me, you know, if you're going to be Mr. Africa in London, why don't you do something about it? So I did, and Invest Africa has taken off. We launched in London in May, in New York a few months later with Bob Diamond. We're launching in Johannesburg today, I'm proud to say, and then Dubai next month, Geneva, Zurich the month after.
So implicit in this, Rob, is that there's appetite for investment, there's capital available, but it needs to be structured. It would be more efficient to structure it than to let individuals do their thing.
Well, I look at it this way. In Europe and America, 90% of the information you need to put a transaction together is available online through Bloomberg and CNBC, through various investment banks. And the relationship is 10% of that information flow. I think in Africa it's still the other way around. It's changing. But I think to be connected to the right transactions in Africa, you really have to know how things operate, the right people, or belong to a platform like Invest Africa that does that for you.
To some extent, I'm sure there's also a risk element that you must be bridging or bringing down by having those on-the-ground connections. If we were to talk about risk, what are international investors still worried about when it comes to Africa? What are you having to allay their fears about?
Yeah, here's the main thing, it's misperception. People have a view, and the view is often 10 to 20 years old and outdated about Africa. Look, there are 55 countries in Africa, so you can't generalize too much. But if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, governance has improved massively. I mean, it's not perfect. You know, they're not children sitting on the street with begging bowls. There's not war and genocide and madness in every country. Good things are happening across Africa, and we're getting that message out to the world. And there's a lot of capital available, and we're giving people comfort that they can get in, make money, and do things the right way.
You're living in London, but you've still got your South African accent, and of course you're the Hersov of the Hersov-Menor combination that formed Angloval Industries, Angloval Mining House, and so on. So what have you been up to that has kind of channeled you to this Invest Africa job?
Well, I went and worked in America for a while, and then Europe and Britain, and founded a number of businesses which has actually kept me there. But I've always wanted to come back to Africa and spend more time here in South Africa and the rest of Africa. And this is now the period of my life when I'm doing that.
So what are you actually doing? I mean, it sounds good, you're channeling.
Yeah.
You're moving around, you're making appointments. What is your job description going to be, if you like?
So Invest Africa started as a network, but it's growing so fast that it's actually becoming more than that. For example, 3 weeks ago, we took a private jet and we flew to 8 countries, 10 cities in 2 weeks. And on the plane we had Nouriel Roubini, the famous economist, Gary Kasparov, the chess grandmaster who's doing his Chess for Africa Foundation, and 8 to 9 big investors. And we showed them Africa as it is, a growing, vibrant country with great people. And so that business is evolving. Separately, I've set up African Capital Investments, which is going to deploy capital into deals in Africa.
Rob, you say that you're showing investors Africa. Where is the greatest appetite? Where do they want to put their capital in terms of markets? Is it Nigeria? Where are the frontier markets? What are you excited about? What are international investors excited about?
Well, I think what they like most of all are consumer-related businesses. So let's put mining and minerals out of the way for the moment, because that's really a big game, and that's going through its different cycle. There's the oil and gas industry, which is a big game, but in between those two is a huge booming consumer market. So retail, financial services, technology, real estate. These are huge opportunities, and we're seeing fantastic deals in these spaces.
You have an access to, in a sense, because partly South African, so you've got that kind of access. But you've got to be careful not to be sunshiny. The kind of everything's wonderful in the continent. In South Africa, I mean, would investing in Africa include South Africa, firstly? And secondly, Nazipa asked, where's the interest? But are there
Yeah.
particular countries that there is particular appetite for, and other countries perhaps which are no-go areas?
Yes, let's talk about the countries first. So yes, I would invest in South Africa, absolutely. And it's not just sunshine everywhere. So on the 8-country trip, I was most impressed with Nigeria, because the perception of Nigeria is crime, corruption, and it's only for Nigerians. Foreigners beware. But that's not the case. You can go in there, invest, and make money. I was very impressed with it. I've been to the DRC many times, but I was very impressed with the DRC, particularly lately. Great Prime Minister. The Katanga province, I think, is growing at double digits on its own. And I was least impressed with Zimbabwe. I think they've confused policy, and as investors, we have a choice. We can invest anywhere in Africa. We don't have to go to Zimbabwe. So they need to sort their policies out.